Hey friends, thanks for joining us today. In this lesson, we are going to finish our cluster houses tutorial. In part 1, we wet felted the background, and today we're going to needle felt in our houses. So I hope you'll stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe, hit the button down below so you get notified anytime we upload a new video. And hey, if you can join us live on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock Central on fb.com/livingfelt, you can join us live, interact, ask questions, and maybe even win a prize.
Pounds and pounds and pounds of MC1. So I'll share that with y'all a little bit later on.
Lil she means more than pounds. We're talking like pallets. Pallets upon pallets. Awesome job. Yeah. What about you, Kayla?
I've been cutting lots and lots of our full and half super bubble today.
Oh, we move a lot of that stuff, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing missing from super bubble is a cape.
Yeah. Well, you kind of wear one when you cut it.
What about you, Miss Holly?
I have been packing goodie bags of merino short fiber.
Yeah.
So they're back in stock.
She is awesome. So Holly's been with us a few weeks and we've kept her out of the limelight.
Thank you.
She's making an awesome contribution, and yeah, so those are back in stock because they were out of stock. So awesome job. She's stuck in the shelves. What about you, Sian?
I have been speaking to a number of our felting friends, phone, on emails and Facebook. You guys are awesome, and we love you.
We have seen some pretty amazing projects in the group, I want to say. Like, I'm personally having a difficult time keeping up with commenting and hearting and liking. So if we don't comment back, don't take offense. Like, there's so many people in the group right now. It's just amazing, and so many wonderful creations. So if you're not in our group, that is facebook.com/groups/livingfeltfriends. You should join it, apply, answer 2 quick questions, and we'll let you in the group. But today we're going to have our live show, and we've got a few things to share, so we're going to get started. Thanks for being here, y'all. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to Woolly Wednesday. Hey, say hi and where you're from. You'll notice our friends doing that from all over the world, wherever they are. We are based in Austin, Texas. We ship all over the world too, and always have something fun going on. So Woolly Wednesday is different every week. Sometimes it's show and tell, sometimes we have special guests, and today we're going to finish a tutorial for those who are here for the first time. We started this 2 weeks ago, and we're going to finish our cluster houses tutorial. So part 1 is on YouTube, and last week we were supposed to have a special guest, Kate Kaprowski, but everything went haywire, and that's all I want to say about that. So we didn't have that, but hey, the fairies have some things they want to share with you today. So just stay with us, say hi and where you're from. Let me see who's here real quick. Let me say hi to some folks. I have to scroll forever to find us. I can't find us. So I'm going to just say hi to some people really fast. Oh, I see there's Paula in Tacoma, Washington just popped up. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching the replay, make your comments below, say hi, where you're from, and hit that subscribe button. Oh, here we are. I see us. Okay, cool. I see Wendy. I see Linda. Hi, y'all. I see Barbara. Nice to see you again. Barbara was just here. Terry, Darlene. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm going to let the fairies share their goodies with you. Hannah's up first.
Hi, everybody. So, as I said earlier, I'm unpacking a ton of MC1. So that means that a ton of these colors are back in stock. So if y'all have been waiting, they're ready to go in all the quantities that you could want. So some of the colors, just for example, and these are only a small number of them, I promise there's a ton that are back on the site, are gonna be the 2 peachies. We got peachy and pale peach back in stock. We got bamboo and lemongrass. Excuse me. We've got the grape. We've got the vintage red and the true red back in stock. I know they've been off for a while. Christmas just kind of wiped us out on those. But we've got those back in stock. We have the solid browns, which are dark chocolate and espresso bean and chestnut back in stock. We've got some of our blues like Majestic Blue and Cobalt and some of their friends back in stock as well. And then you can see up here, caramel's back in stock, lemon peel, and mango. And that's only a handful, so if y'all have any trouble finding anything online, you give us a call. We'll help you out. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I am super excited to announce that we got some new colors in our 100% wool felt sheets. So here are our new colors right here. They look so pretty together, so I'm gonna keep them that way. This pink one right here, this is coral. This more orangey one is peach. This one is sage, Dijon, sea glass, and marina. And these felt sheets are awesome for needle felting. They are processed, so they're not really usable for wet felting, but they're awesome for things like portraits, landscapes, and to put in a little embroidery hoop. So yay, they'll be up on our website.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. We just wanted to give a big thank you to all of our fabulous felting friends that joined us last week for a workshop. We made some ruffle scarves on day 1 and animal hoods on day 2. And a huge thank you and we love you goes out to Kate Kaprowski, who was the instructor for that workshop. She made this beautiful ruffle scarf for Marie. Isn't it gorgeous?
I think it's for all of us. So you can wear it any day you want, Ann.
Awesome. I'm going to take you up on that.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ann. It's so fun for us when our friends come. Oh, this is Speedy. He keeps running out of the room. He's my nervous Nelly, but he always sleeps under the table, wherever I am, pretty much. That's where he is. So I'm going to put him down now. He'll stay. Thank you for being here, everyone. I saw someone comment. They said this reminded them of watching Romper Room when they were little. And I didn't watch Romper Room, but I watched the show called Zoom. I know it's funny, but like some of my biggest influences were Captain Kangaroo, as you know, Bob Ross, and Zoom was this fun show, and it was like 4 or 5 kids who were like the hosts, and all these other kids like did cool stuff, and they would interview them and go and see like what they made or what they created. It was a cool show. I don't know what happened to it. And people would write in letters, so kind of like y'all. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. Thank you so much. And we're going to wrap back to our tutorial. And someone asked, is the MC1 bats that Hannah was showing you? And the answer is yes. MC1 is our signature fiber. Nobody else sells it. It's the fiber that we make. And we're going to be working with that today in our tutorial. It is a short fiber merino cross bat. It's a domestic fiber grown right here in the US of A. And we make it in like over 90 colors. On average, at any given time, we have between 80 and 85 colors in our current rotation. So there's a lot to choose from, and we like to make it in colors that are really, I feel like true to life, things you would see out in the world, whether it's in an animal or a plant somewhere. That's what we like to do. So I have a question. How many of you have started and created the background for your 2D piece, whether you're going to do the cluster houses or you're going to do a different subject? How many of you already started your background? Let us know.
While we're waiting on that, Jennifer Lynn McMullen shared, oh, the Boss Ross.
The Boss Ross. Yeah, I love Bob Ross. Great, great, great influence, for sure. Okay, so we are felting a picture. For those of you who didn't join us in the beginning of this, this is a 2D picture. It's mounted onto a wood box frame and just a wood artist block. And this is purple linen behind it. This is all of our MC1 batting was used to make this picture. We wet felted the background. We actually did a needle felting, wet felting process to make the background. And today we're going to put the houses on it. So let's start by looking at the backgrounds. And did you hear anybody say that they made theirs?
Yes, Pat Ackerman has made her background. Let's see, Sherry J said that she wet felted her background. Linda Neff has started.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear it. So, all right, we're going to look at a few different ways you can maybe play with your design ideas. And so we're just going to turn down the cameras and jump right into our tutorial. Thanks for being here, y'all. So this is what we're working on, and today we're going to be needle felting in the details. This is what we have, which is our fabric. So for those of you who are brand new to making handmade felt, or felting as we call it, this piece was 100% wet felted. And what I want to point out is the target you should be shooting for is having a solid piece of fabric. A few weeks back now, we did the pancake lesson where we wet felted merino top. This is our PFX pre-felt with MC1 batting on top. And that is this product right here. It's called MC1 batting. It is a short fiber bat. I'm going to be working with it today. So if you've never worked with it, you'll at least get a glimpse. And if you watch this tutorial, you'll see how we worked with it here. And I just want to point out that this is what you're going for, a nice solid piece of fabric. Even if the fiber you're using maybe is a little fuzzy, you can't pull it apart. This is a nice solid piece of fabric. I brought in a couple of other things to show you. And you might recall that I said if you get a piece felted, if you're not sure if it's felted, if you let it sit overnight, then you'll be able to tell how well it's felted the next day. I left this piece only partially felted for a reason. I wanted to use it as an example to show that even though it might look like all it needs is an ironing, if I wanted to, I could literally start to pull these two layers apart. And if your piece feels like that after drying overnight, then go back and felt it some more, because you want your piece to be as felted as possible. If you use these little tutorials as building blocks for your education and learn to make a really good solid piece of felt, then as your aspirations become to make bigger and bigger pieces, you'll have built them on a strong foundation. So don't sell yourself short. Felt it all the way and get it fully felted. Now the last piece I brought in to show you is the piece that we just kind of banged around and needle felted on together. If your piece looks like this, you can still see all the needle marks. It's loose and wispy and you could pull it apart. It's not done. Keep going. Even if you decide to needle felt it only, keep going and turn this into a nice solid piece of fabric. Even if all you have are just a few needles, you can rubber band them together and spend your time and really flatten all that down. It takes a lot longer to needle felt it only, so you might have bigger tools even, but you'll get to a point where using a fine needle will really help you get through the last compression. So mostly the thing I want to cap it off with is saying don't sell yourself short, don't rush, have a good time, and learn how to make a really good piece of felt, and then your quality will be there as your imagination starts to run wild with new ideas.
And Laura asks, is it possible to overfelt the background?
You probably won't. I would be surprised if you did, because we like to needle felt even into 100% wool felt sheets like these that Kayla was showing you. This is completely felted. In fact, you could throw this in the washing machine, shrink it down. I think it shrinks another good 10% or so. I can't remember. I did shrink it down to test. And then you could still needle felt into it. So you're not going to over felt the background, especially when you want to needle felt into it. No, I don't think so. Any other questions before we get started? No, answers were ready to go. Okay, so I have my cluster of wool here, and this is just my bin. This is like what I'm working from at home, so it's all over the place. We named these colors, I think, in the first lesson, and this is what the MC1 batting looks like. Let's look at this piece. This is just a chunk of it, of course, but you can see that it's just like a big lofty bat. See how thick that bat is. What's wonderful about it is that you can peel it into thin layers if you want, or you can also pull off little teeny tiny pieces to get in and do some great detail. So this is what we're working with, but I brought a little tool for people who maybe feel like they need to work out their ideas. And that is just some scraps of paper that I cut out. You might even recognize this paper from another tutorial we did. If you feel like a little bit of a creative block and you don't know how you want to put down your houses and you want to plan it out a little in advance, you might cut out some shapes of varying sizes out of cardstock. And I would make cardstock or whatever, scrapbook paper. It could even be patterned paper. Make them different sizes so that you can play with them a little bit. And I traced mine in black because I kind of have a little bit of a grungy feel to my picture. I wanted it to be a little dark and ready. So I just traced mine with black to give me a little bit of the feeling. And for today and these tutorials, I'm kind of emulating the picture that I made before so that it's at least consistent from tutorial to tutorial. So here's just some ways that you might play with it. You might think, I don't know who I want to be in front and who I want to be in back. Do I want my houses right next to each other, or do I want to overlap them to some degree? How do you want, the picture to lay out? What's that composition that's appealing to you? Do you want the houses to kind of see how these houses they kind of slope down? I didn't plan this picture with blocks, by the way, but you could, if you want to, kind of think about what's that composition going to be like. So you can play with paper, and then you can play with different kinds of roofs to see how might you like those to be shaped. And who is on top? Who's on bottom? So these are I just kind of, like I said, copied what I had going on already. And you can play with this idea and see who you want to be where. So as an example, this little guy could have just a funky, funny roof, or he could have another triangular roof. And do I want this house to be in front or in back? So any comments there on that, Anne? Anything?
Shona shares, this is a great idea rather than going at it straight away and not being happy with it and then having to go back and get to plan it out and play with it first.
Cool. And the other thing I want to point out, good, I'm glad if it's helpful at all. The other thing I want to point out is you might look at where the bottoms are, and we did have a hanging and mounting tutorial last month, I think it was. You want to think about how you're going to mount your piece. Notice how I have my blocks right here laid out right along the edge. It doesn't give me any room for a sidewalk or anything in front. And it definitely, if you're going to put it in a frame with any kind of matting, you would be chopping that off. So if you have a little bit of pre-planning, you can think about where you want your image to end, or maybe you're happy with it just running off the rails, which I wanted to do in this one, is just let it be really free-flowing. And I think this is fun because you can play with some different roof shapes as well and kind of just have a plan in advance. I don't know, I think so. Okay. So I'm going to take these off for the most part, but I want to show you another way you can use these blocks when you're just getting started. Is there anything to respond to right now, Anne?
Vicki asked, would it be a good idea to make the blocks in the colors that you'll use when you do the felting? I
suppose if that helps you, you certainly could. You could play with, do you like that as a composition? I only had like 3 or 4 colors of paper around, so I just alternated so that I could see the difference between the houses. That was kind of the approach I took in this case. So I want to show you how I did start my picture and then how you might use these blocks as well. And I started my picture by tracing the outline of each house that we're going to do. I did that with my gray. I chose a gray, and then I went back later and trimmed the houses with black. So they all started with a gray fiber. And I imagine the first tutorial was probably facing me, and this one is facing them. Okay, so this fiber, one of the things about it when you get it is you'll notice it does have a bit of a grain. And what's nice is if you tear it along the grain, you can actually tear nice long strips. And that's all I'm doing is tearing some long skinny strips so that I can trace out a shape. And so in this case, I'm just using a 38 star. You can use anything you want. And I am going to just start trimming out what would be my first house. So all I did was anchor this tip down, and now I'm pulling on this fiber a little bit to bring it back and follow that line. You don't even have to manipulate it a bunch before you start working with it, because this is just a draft line anyway. And if you're not sure where to go with that, you can take your shape that you have right here and use it as a guide. So I can go, oh, I want my corner, and you don't have to trace the corner this way, but it'll show me where the roof line goes. Well, my corner goes this way to this point. And so I'm just going to trim that down right here and tack that down. So it's kind of like the reverse cookie cutter method, right? Because a cookie cutter is hollow, and you're just going to use this as a guide along the outside. What do you got, Ann? Nothing. Okay. Y'all just ask questions if you want. Leave any comments while we're working, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. Sometimes we can't get to all of them, but we do try and address them as best we can. If you're brand new to needle felting, this is a really fun project. And if you're like me, if you've been felting a long time, I consider these like fun, no pressure projects. Just have fun with the content. And gosh, you know, you could just make anything with this same method, anything you want at all. So this is just my planner. And when I made this first picture, what I did was I outlined all of my houses in advance. Today I won't have time to do that with you, but let's fill in at least one house or so, and then we'll go to adding more detail. Now in this case, where these two houses are going to overlap, and here's my roof line, all I really need to know is where this next house is kind of coming up. How wide do I want that to be? So in this case, I just want it to come straight up. I'm not even really worried about where the bottom is, because I'm going to drag my sidewalk right across the front of all these, and I'll plan that as part of the process. So I like how this comes up above the roof line, and that's what I'm going to do right here. Bring this one up higher than the other house. Now, if you're felting along with me today, or you got started, what you can do when you finish is you can share your picture in our group, Living Felt Friends. That's where we all just basically ooh and ah over what everybody makes. It's just a fun, really loving, warm group and a great time. Okay, so this is the basic idea. We're just going to get our shapes in place. And most of my houses are just kind of the same shape. You might make one more narrow and one more fat. I'm going to make this one a little skinny just for fun. And this house is actually a little shorter than this one, so I'll stop right here. Are some people felting along with us today, Anne?
I think a few are. Oh, Claire asks, Marie, why aren't you using a transfer pen to mark out the building?
Oh, you know, because I am showing you, I guess, just how I made this picture, and when I did it, it was free form. I didn't use the blocks or anything, so I just actually did what I'm doing right now. So I guess the reason I'm not doing that is because I want to give you another way you might approach something. So one way you might approach it is by pre-planning with the blocks. You might then trace out those blocks, Or you could just go about it this way. This is how I started, just like this, just by tracing out what was the basic layout going to be, and then I started filling in my houses. So I think there's so many different ways to tackle a project, and this is just another way you might approach it and think about it. Now my blue is pretty dark, but I think we might have time to fill in a couple, so let's look at that. I have, in this case, I'm working with a few different colors of blue. This is our cobalt blue, and this is our midnight blue, and this is our black. If you can see the difference, let me hold up a bigger piece of black. If you can see the difference in these three colors, it's fun to work with different values or different gradients. And so this house right here is cobalt. I added a little of the midnight in to make it a little darker in places, and I even added a lighter blue to make it a little lighter in some other places. So you might play with that sort of fun shading when you fill in your houses. And I need to put a line right there. So I'm just going to make a guideline, and then we'll come back and do black over the top so it really stands out. Now I'm going upside down, so if anybody here is really good at drawing in perspective, I hope you'll forgive my wonkiness right from the start. And anyway, I think projects like this, it can be wonky. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. I think that's part of the fun, is your house could be more like a trapezoid, you know, the shape could be funny. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. Now notice that I'm just peeling this back thin. You can make it as thin as you want. And I'm going to go back and trim the edges with some dark colors. So there's a couple of ways to do this. Depending on what you're comfortable with. I like to just needle felt basically to the line. So I made that line, and I'm just going to go right back over it because I'm going to come back and trim it with the black anyway. But if you're not really comfortable with that, you could put down your shape. And what you could do is tack the wool along the outside of the shape. So I'm going to show you how to use this to get a really straight line. If you tack along the outside, as I mentioned, it's kind of the reverse of the cookie cutter, then it's going to give you a guide. And you can take everything that sticks over the line and just brush it back and then tack it down, if you're trying to get a really straight line. That's kind of like the reverse cookie cutter method. So here you can use like your 38 star if you want, or if you're working with a nice thin layer, you can use your finer needles. This is the 42 triangle, and I've got 4 of them rubber banded together. And if you just methodically tack all of that down, you can work it in phases, you know, basically get your color idea down and then go back and get really detailed and flatten it so that it's super nice and smooth.
Jaylyn asks, how do you know how much wool to use on a house?
I would just say, you know, it depends on whether you want your picture to be flat or have dimension. And if you're not sure, you know, what you don't want is for the background to show through, right? You want it to be solid enough that the background doesn't show through, and you don't need more wool than that. So your fiber might be different, but if you're working with our MC1 batting, peel some thin layers and lay it down. If when you lay it down you can't see the background through, then you probably have enough.
Beth shares, I'd love to do this for my kids as a sort of cartoon version of their street when growing up.
Oh, that sounds really cute, actually. Before I move on, I'm going to bring in my black. And if black is too strong for you, you could use like the midnight, or you could blend your color with black or blend it with another color. I'm going to trace out this line right here, right along the edge so that I can see it really well. I'm going to just start at the roof line. And notice that I'm just dragging it just like I did before. And I'm not making it thick. I guess I don't want this to be like a Sharpie line. I want it to be kind of charcoalish. That's kind of the look I went for. And you can go for a different look. You might want to trace yours out with yarn or something really, really specific. Now on the side back here, I think I want to use the Midnight, and if that feels too dark, then we can blend the Midnight with a bit of the Cobalt. So just take, you could start with even pieces, or I'm going to do it like maybe 2/3 and 1/3, and I'm just going to take a pinch of each, put this over here, and blend them. Just a little bit. I don't even mind. I don't even necessarily want it to be homogeneous. It won't be, because it's a blend on top of a blend, but I just want it to be not quite so dark and not quite so light. And now I know it's all chunky. I know it's kind of chunky, but you can just piece it. Just kind of piece it and layer it a little bit. Piece it and layer it a little bit. And if you're going to leave anything a little bare, you can let it be the edges, and I'll show you why. Everyone see okay, Anne, you think? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now I'm upside down, so I think my ability to see what's happening is always a little bit challenged when I'm upside down. Some of you know when I needle felt, I get really up close and personal to my work. But what I do is I just kind of lay it where I want to put it, and then I usually am focused on a very small area at a time when I needle felt. Notice that I don't bang around all over the place. I'm going to kind of go methodically down the piece, just like as if you're smoothing out shelf paper or a poster on the wall. You tackle it so that you push the excess in one direction.
A couple of our felting friends want to know, do you find it easier to can make the background first and then add details on later? Or
I do.
The details first?
Yeah, that's a great question. So they asked, do we add the details on later or while we're going? In a picture like this, you don't want to have to guide your wool around the details, because then you'll kind of see the grain. So I would definitely put the background in first. Now, I don't know if y'all can see my background, like I have a little spot right there. One of the things that's beautiful about this batting is you can literally pull off a little tiny tuft and just fill in that hole. You can just patch it in. Just don't let it get any folds in it. Just lay it out. Okay, now I can clean up these lines along the edges, but here's what I'd like to do. Take my Midnight and my black, and I want to darken that up a little bit, because I want to darken like into the sides. And again, this is for more of like mine is like a ready picture. One of our friends, I think it was Margot Duke, posted a really cute cluster house picture, and it was much more bright and white and bright colors, which is something I love also. So yours might be different, and I want to do one like that. I've just stuck with this theme because that's what I started with, and I wanted to be consistent throughout the tutorial. So notice that I'm just kind of darkening up these edges, and what you can do also is find areas, like this is the side of the house, if the light's coming from the front, I don't know, maybe the street lamp is there, but you can darken this whole upper corner that would be under the roof line. And if you make your blends in advance, then when you lay them down, they're hardly even discernible that you have those gradients happening.
A couple of our felting friends want to know, are we going to wet felt the house, wet felt the picture again once the house is done?
No, I'm not going to wet felt it. If you look at this one, it is needle felted really, really flat. Like I can rub all over it and I'm not disturbing it at all. I don't have any reason to wet felt it, but we did steam press it once we're all finished. We steam pressed the whole thing. So we even steam pressed this after we wet felt it. So as long as it's really smooth, you can steam press it again with great effect and impact.
And Shona asks, how hard are you needle felting the image on? Is it just enough to attach the wool to the surface, or is it quite firm?
That is a great question. So she's asking, how hard do I needle felt? It's a really good question, because the truth is there's no reason to put my needles any further into the foam than where you hear that basic connection. And some people hate the sound, I know, and some people like me love it. But I don't need to go into the foam and into the foam. You don't need to abuse your foam so much. Mostly we just want to attach it to the surface here. And so you can if you use something like these really fine needles, the 42 triangle that we make are yellow, color-coded yellow. What's beautiful about them is they have barbs that are very shallow and towards the surface, and they're fine. So what you can do is this real shallow poke, and it is going to flatten and smooth your fibers out without having to drive your needles firm into the foam. And it will give you a very smooth finish. So there's no reason to drive too far up the shaft. Use the first 2 barbs and stop there. And if you don't have these 42 needles, try it and you'll see what I mean. And this little clustering with a rubber band is just incredibly helpful. So for this one, why don't we keep building on this guy, and let's just give him a roof before we go too much further. And I'll let Ann give me any questions. Now this guy, this is our boysenberry purple, and I think I mixed it with a little bit of black or gray, and then maybe even a little bit of lighter colors too.
Carol asks, what do you use to steam press it?
I just use an iron, just a regular iron that has a steam setting. So I think you can probably see, especially when I put this roof line on, that the front of the house is a little bit lighter and the back of the house is a little bit darker. That's kind of a fun thing to play with. And I'm going to come back and, trim these out some more. Use your blocks if you're not sure, where you want your roof lines and such. And for me, I just know whether when I look at it, I know that I go, well, I kind of want the roof to stick off this side a little bit. I never got past basic art class. I didn't. So y'all will understand why why everything I do is kind of towards the playful, because I really never did get past much, and any of my drawing experience has come much, much later in life as a result of just wanting to be better. So those who are more experienced and snickering, at our drawings, just go with it. We're just having fun here. This is trying not to take life too seriously. So you can get your basic plan in place and then see where you want that roof line to go. Like, how far do you want it to stick over? But I like to kind of draw that roof line just like we did the others and then fill it in. And you could do it with your gray if you want. I'm just not going towards that step at this moment. I'm just guiding.
Barbara asks, do you iron all of your 2D work?
A lot of it, yeah, I do. I do iron it because I'm usually going for a really smooth finish. If you're not going for a smooth finish, then I guess you wouldn't need to, but I do like to steam press my work because I like it to be really flat. And now it's already flat, but if you try it once, you'll see what I mean. It's gonna give you a really nice, polished finish. Unless it's fuzzy. Look, if it's fuzzy, you're just not gonna kind of get around that.
And Linda asks, do you need to use a cloth over your project when you steam it?
I don't. No, you can iron. The wool can handle it. The wool can absolutely handle it. The wool doesn't have a propensity to burn. So that's one of the things about the wool. It can handle the heat, and it does not have a propensity to burn. If you have silk fibers in there and decorative fibers like that, then you might consider that and use that cloth over, because you don't want to dull the sheen of those fibers. But if you're just using 100% wool, you don't need to. Now I'm having a difficult time seeing the bottom of my roof line down here, so please forgive me if it's a bit wonky. I'm gonna try and lean over my work so I can see it. See what y'all see. So yeah, don't be shy about steam pressing, and if you're not sure, go back to the last lesson where we actually wet felted this and steam press that piece. I think I also shared in that one that I have steam pressed stuff that is 100% needle felted and has dimension. And if you do that, it's going to mush out and you'll lose that dimension that you put in there unless it's rock hard, and you still might anyway. So that can actually be fun. I did a little house on a hill with locks and bumps, and then I steam pressed it and it mushed out, and I actually liked it just as much. Okay, so I know my roof line is a little funky, but let us trace this out and just add a little bit of detail onto this house.
Lois asks, so when you're doing a project, do you have all your colors picked out, or do you change colors as you go?
Oh, that's a really great question. And I'd be interested to see how other people do it too. Usually what I do, Lois, is something just like this. Is I'll go into my studio and I'll pull out the colors that I want to work together, and I'll make myself a tub depending on how big the project is. So if it's a little project, I might make, you know, a tub this big. But if it's a bigger project, I'll get a bigger tub or bag, and I keep that next to me so I have it to pull from the entire time. And mostly that's because it's such a pain to go get the colors out. I used to have them all like in a shoe cubby and just available to pick, but if I do that, I will literally go up to my bats like this and say they're all in my shoe cubby, and I start plucking from them like a bird. And so I was not being very kind to my bats. And as a result, I have them all in little organizer boxes, just like I showed you, organized by color and fiber type. And I will pull together a little palette. And I do the same thing when I wet felt. I pull together a color and fiber palette. Okay, so now this one, I'm just going to trace this with the black. And if it's too much for you, then blend it, blend it with your color of choice, even the color that is at the base. But there's something kind of fun about doing a picture like this that's just a little towards the dark side, but still happy. This is like a night picture.
Susan asks, are you poking straight up and down or at an angle?
I'm going straight up and down. Yeah, straight up and down. I mean, it varies depending on what I'm doing, but you can just go straight up and down. You don't have to go at an angle. Now, right here, I want this to be a little reddy, and you might like it nice and bright. So take your black, take a pinch of black, take a pinch of this color, and blend them together. You could just put the black right on top, but if you blend them together a little bit, then it doesn't look so stark, and it's a little bit easier to needle felt it down without it like stretching the black. And if you've tried to just put a color on top, you know what I mean. Sometimes it's like you're trying to guide it and you end up poking it such that it looks stretched.
Judy asks, is it okay to iron as you go, or only iron it once it's completely
Oh,
finished?
I suppose, you could iron, but don't trick yourself with ironing. Like if I steam press something that's not fully felted, it may look flatter for the moment, but still be able to be picked apart. So I would say iron when you're finished and you know that it's completely felted, unless like you completely finish this house and you steam press it and you move on to the next. But it should be felted enough that you can't pick the fibers apart before you steam press, because you'll trick yourself into thinking it's done when it's not.
Robin asks, can you lift the picture up to see if or do you need to lift the picture up to see if it's sticking to the foam?
It's okay if it's sticking to the foam. So here, I'm going to just show you. If you want to lift it, you can, but peel it back and see how it's coming through. That's fine, and I'll just leave it down the whole time. But if you're not sure how far you're going, then check it and make sure you're not chewing up your foam. Because notice, I know people talk a lot about how much the fiber is sticking in their foam. Let me just hold this up close so you can see the fiber is not sticking into the foam. I've got enough of a density in the background there that the fiber can take it. If your background is super thin, then more of it's going to attach to your foam. So be kind to your foam and only go as deep as you need to, because you don't have to dig your foam up. You just don't. But the thinner your substrate, the more beating your foam is going to take. That's just the truth of it. Okay, let's put a little house on this guy, and then we'll just jump ahead. We'll jump ahead a little bit. So for my door, I picked purple, True Violet. This is not True Violet. Grape. This is grape. I'll use a grape for my door. blues and purples on this one. And notice I'm just pulling off a little bunch. I want to make like an oval shaped, kind of an oval shaped door.
Jill asks, do you determine the light source for your picture before you start determining where the highlights go?
No, I'm not that exact. For me, I'm just eyeballing it as I go. And that probably has to do with the fact that I'm not a trained artist. If you're a trained artist, you're probably more likely to think about those things than someone like me. I'm more like a find my way kind of person, honestly. Unless I'm trying to do a realistic, like I've been I should say I have been working in the last couple of years to get better at doing certain things realistic, like my recent robin study that I did in colored pencil or my 2D dogs. So unless I'm really trying to go for realism, then often I just kind of plod along and find my way. And I know that may not be the best way to teach, but I'm just having fun. I don't know what to say. Okay. There's our little door, and I'm going to go ahead and trim that with black, and then let's add our little window, and then we'll just kind of jump ahead a little bit in this picture. Like I said, if this is too stark, adding just the black, you can blend with another color, or you can blend this color with the black like we just did on the little purple. And I'm kind of leaving the bottom a little rough until I decide exactly where my sidewalk is going to go, because I'm probably going to put a big bush. I'll put a big bush right here like in this picture, and then put a big bush here and trail the sidewalk down. So you take it as far as you want to. I want to leave it in a little bit of a draft, knowing that I'm going to fill this in and add a few design elements.
Alice says, I love your philosophy. And Becky says, having fun is what it's all about.
For me, y'all, art is kind of the process of fun, and I try not to put too much pressure on myself. I only make art for me and for you and for gifts. So I know there are people who exhibit and do things that are more formal. So of course you would expect a more formal approach. But for me, yeah, it's all in the fun. Okay, so let's make a little window here. So that it stands out, I'm going to use this. I can't see. Oh, I lost that's okay. I'm going to use this bright blue here so that it's really a different color. And we're just going to make a little circle. So the first thing I'm going to do is just make a little round window. And I notice I just put down a blob. Just a blob. Poke right in the middle, and then I'm just going to find my circle sort of by poking around and then bring this in towards the middle. Let it just be mostly round, because we'll get the roundness when we bring our trim in. Make your window as big as you want. One of the things I found with these houses is that it was kind of fun to break up the shapes. You know, like if you have a dome door, you might have a round or a square window. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, like don't have them all be the same. And I think that these can be really playful with different size windows and things not being symmetrical, or you could go full on gingerbread house after it, you know, and make everything just picture perfect. So that window is mostly round. And then I'm going to use this orange right here, which is hot orange, just for a great contrast to trim out this window. So I'm going to just tease out the fiber and start at whatever point and drag it around. Now you could make it, you could stretch it all out before you put it down, but I find it really easy to kind of anchor it and draft it out. So like we're doing here, draft it out as you go around, and you can always go back and add to it if you want it to be a little bit thicker. So I just kind of drag it as I go. And be sure when you go to pull it off that you pull it off, use your finger to pull it off, otherwise you'll probably pull it free. Now, that's mostly round, and then we'll just go straight up and down like little window panes. How we doing, Ann?
Doing good.
I can't wait to see your houses, that's for sure. You know what, you can't get this project wrong. You just can't. Have fun with it. Let your houses be any color. Let your houses be any shape. You can't get it wrong. Whatever you do, I promise, it's just going to be magical. So there's kind of our house, and I will go back and I'm going to trim mine under the eaves with black and work on that some more and add bushes and stuff. But let's jump ahead just a little bit here and look at a few more ideas. So I'm going to peel this off, and this is me showing great restraint. Like I had to stop working on this picture so that I had something to show you that wasn't finished. It's hard. It's hard not to finish when you're having a good time. So this picture, pretty much I've been trying to copy this one. And a couple of the things I want to point out is, look how these windows are wonky and this door is super tall. Like it's not even anything you would probably see unless you were in your own little happy land. So have some fun with that. This trim right here along the sides, I took this berry color. Let me see if I have it. Let me see, I have it. This house is this berry color, but I've combined it with some blues along the edges to make it a little more dirty rather than black, because black felt too strong for this. So in this case, I just pulled from that cobalt blue that we used. So this is the example. A little bit of cobalt blue mixed with this berry. Just mix these two together to give yourself, if you want to play with that sort of shading or ruddying it up a little bit, play with some different blends that you might not think about immediately and see if you like the impact that it has on what you're doing. So there's that together. And also what it does is it gives you a nice little bridge from one to the other. We jump from the blue to the pink, but it's not like a bubblegum pink, and it's not too clean and pristine either.
A couple of our felting friends are posting some inspiration ideas for when they do their photo. I think Jennifer said a chimney with some smoke coming out would be cute. And Dave said a window box with flowers.
Good ideas, good ideas. That's so fun. So this, this one has a long, tall door in brown and colors that you might not expect to work together. Play with those together and see how you like it. Just have fun. Like maybe you do make your picture for someone else, like someone said they were going to make them for their kids. If you trim it out with another color, it's going to stand out a little bit. You might make your door open, right? You might make it closed. One thing I wanted to show you was like over here on this orange one, what I did was I blended, this is our coral, blended with this brown to make it a little reddy along the sides. And then I used the brown in that roof line. So let's do that. Let's see, I have it here. Here it is. Okay. So these two blended together just look a little dirty. And all you got to do is stretch it out wherever you want it and just kind of lay it down and see how that feels. I know we're getting close to time. All I'm going to do is tack a roof line on this.
Oh, and Susan asks, what size needles are you using?
I am using the 42 triangles. These are the yellow, and then this one is a 38 triangle. A 38 star. And I usually also have a single 42 triangle at least right there on my table. Like for this part, I would be using the 42. Let me see if I have one. I do. A single, when I'm doing this like final topical, I would probably be using a single 42 right here, where I just want to tack in these details. So first, if you just go shallow, 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 and kind of get it smoothed out, then you can come back and just really go after it. So tack it down and be delicate with it at first. And then this one I want to give like a little more of a shallow, like a small roof line.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna give a heart for the like string of inspiration.
Oh, you guys listing all your ideas? Well, I can't wait to see what you make, and I hope you have fun with it. I hope that if you haven't tried wet felting, that you'll make this your attempt to wet felt your background. You know, what do you got to lose? Wet felt the background and see how that feels. Remember, you know, the goal is to learn how to make good felt, and that means you can't pick it apart with your fingers. That means it's gonna hold up to all the loving and pawing and touching that your friends are gonna apply to it. So give it your best effort. And I know we're running out of time. The fairies are about to give me the hook here so that we can give away some prizes. For those of you who don't know, we give away prizes at the end of every show. So we're going to be giving those away, and if you have been participating in our conversation while we've been felting, then your name has gone into a magic dish, and we're going to pull names from there to give prizes away. So what we're going to do is turn up. I'm going to take this guy home and yay, finally finish him to kind of match this one. And when you get all finished and it's super smooth, go ahead and give it a nice steam press. Decide how you're going to mount it, and if you're not sure, watch back to our hanging and mounting tutorials where we show you a few different ways you can hang and mount your pieces. But we're going to pull up and give some prizes away. Okay, y'all, so we're going to give away some prizes. Here's how it goes. Before the show, we choose a few prizes to give away. Anne has picked those out, so the fairies have come back to draw some names. Go ahead, y'all.
You gonna go ahead first?
Okay. Susan Zabel.
Yay! Susan! Oh, Anne, tell us about our prizes today.
So our prizes today. So
Let me make sure we can see you.
Oh yes.
No, we can't see you. Come on in. You move down.
The
You
mystery.
can't deprive the people from what they want, right? Yeah.
I'll hug Anne. She's got the goodies.
So today, one of our prizes is a MC1 goodie bag, and then a piece of our PFX pre-felt, which would be great for using as the background for the picture.
Okay, so you can get this prize, right?
Or a needle felting and 2D monarch kit.
So you can choose. So if we draw your name, you can email customerservice@livingfelt.com. If you're not in our database, include your full contact information, including email and phone number. If you've ever ordered anything from us at all, including a free download, you're in our database. We'll know where to send it. Okay, cool. So we need 2 more names, y'all.
Ready, Kayla?
Nope, one escaped. Kelly Burton.
Yay! And one more for the day.
You wanna hold it?
Yeah.
All right, one more, and we've got Susan Martin.
Yay! Susan! Congratulations, everybody. Thank you so much. And hey, you know what? I have one more thing I want to share. I want to let you know that we received our first shipment of Danny Ives' new book called Painting with Wool. 16 artful projects to needle felt. We can't ship it yet. we can't ship it till the end of March, but they're coming in now. So you can reserve yours on our website. You can search Ives, I-V-E-S, under the search bar, or we'll post a link right now before we sign off. You can pre-order and we'll ship it as soon as we can. Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Thank y'all.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you are working on your cluster houses tutorial. I'm going to take this one home and finish mine. I've had a great time working with you on yours. And if you would, when you get finished, post them in our group. It's fb.com/groups/livingfeltfriends, or search Living Felt Facebook. You'll find us there. You'll find a really nice, warm community and lots of just joy and support and encouragement. So work on yours. I hope you'll share a picture and join us live next week, Wednesdays at 2 o'clock Central on fb.com/livingfelt. Thanks, y'all. See you soon.